I brushed a crease from my forest green linen dress, the only cotton in a room of silk and smugness. We were at La Cascade, Portland's most elite rooftop dining club. Glass chandeliers, a pianist flown in from Vienna, and panoramic views of the Willamette River. My family's choice, no doubt, designed to intimidate me. Alana Whitaker, you actually came. My cousin Spencer's voice dripped with false delight. I wasn't sure this place fit your budget, he added with a smirk. His wife Nadine didn't bother hiding her laugh. I caught my reflection in a mirrored column. Bare face, no designer jewelry, just the emerald drop earrings Grandma Eloise gave me when I turned 18. Understated, but intentional. I make it work, I said, following the host to the table. As we passed, I overheard Nadine mutter to my Aunt Linda, we could have just done this at the club bistro. Alana's not exactly flush. They didn't know I owned the holding company that acquired La Cascade last fall. At 38, I had spent the last 12 years building out West Wing Aero, an aerospace logistics firm spun from my master's thesis in UAV technology. The same thesis my family laughed at when I turned down a marketing role at Whitaker and Sloan, our family's consulting legacy in Seattle. Spencer had taken that path. Now executive partner. Always dressed like a magazine ad and always ready to drop humble brags about IPOs and pivot strategies. He once loaned me money to replace a laptop. Never let me forget it. So, Lana, Spencer grinned, swirling his wine. Still doing that little drone thing? I let him have his moment. He didn't know West Wing had just secured a $2.4 billion 0-cents logistics contract with the Department of Defense, or that this very restaurant's rooftop had been the site of our latest drone delivery demo last month. Flawlessly executed, live-streamed, and praised by Forbes. Only Grandma Eloise ever believed in me. Don't waste energy proving them wrong, she'd whisper. Just live in a way they can't ignore. I hear she still drives that old Civic, Nadine snorted. I smiled into my glass. Actually, I drove here in a jet black McLaren. I just parked it around the block. Let them wonder. If only Nadine knew I'd landed my Gulfstream at Portland Jetport 2 hours ago. Speaking of cars, Spencer chimed in, adjusting his platinum cufflinks. Nadine and I just finalized the build on our new Bentley Flying Spur. Fully custom. Walnut trim, Italian leather, the whole package. He turned to me with that patronizing tilt of his head. What's it like, Lana, taking the bus to your co-working space? Great way to reduce emissions, I replied smoothly, thinking of the LEED-certified hangar West Wing Aero had just built as part of our new sustainability initiative in the Pacific Northwest. My Uncle Alan cleared his throat. Now, Spencer, don't needle her. Not everyone is made for the stress of high finance. At least Alana's self-sufficient. He said it like a polite way of saying unsuccessful. Oh, Nadine chirped, practically bouncing. Spencer has some thrilling news. Tell them, hun. Spencer puffed up. We're finalizing a deal with Cascade Freight. If it closes, Whitaker and Sloan will manage their entire West Coast supply chain. Huge portfolio. Easily 9 figures. I reached for a roll from the basket. Cascade Freight. The name rang like a gong. I smiled faintly. West Wing had completed the acquisition of Cascade under a shell company 6 months ago. They didn't know they were pitching to me. That's exciting, I said. When's the meeting? Tomorrow, Spencer said, chin high. Their CEO's flying in on a Gulfstream. People who matter don't fly commercial. If only he knew I was that CEO. And I'd be reviewing their pitch from West Wing HQ with my legal team in real time. I hear the CEO's identity is totally confidential, Uncle Alan added. All very cloak and dagger. That's real influence, Spencer nodded. Quiet wealth. Real capital. Nadine flagged the waiter. Alana, there's a nice kale salad that's affordable. I'll do the chef's tasting menu, I said, perusing the wine pairings. A pause. The tasting menu was $560, 0 cents. Alana, Aunt Linda whispered, alarmed. That's steep. Don't worry, I said, folding my napkin neatly. I've been saving for this moment. Nadine's smile tightened. This isn't the time for theatrics, Alana. It's getting a little sad. I'm not performing, I said, meeting her eyes with deliberate calm. Spencer scoffed. What next? You secretly own a jet? Right on cue, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, color drained from his face. Excuse me, he muttered, standing abruptly and heading for the lobby. His voice still carried. What do you mean the Cascade Freight CEO canceled? The meeting's in 12 hours. This is a billion-dollar deal. They can't just... Aha! His voice dropped as he turned the corner. When he returned, the smirk was gone, replaced by a pale, pinched expression. Everything all right? Nadine asked, her tone bright and brittle. Fine, Spencer snapped. Just business. Not really something you'd get, Alana. I took a sip of wine, mentally outlining the email I'd sent tonight, on West Wing letterhead, a polite decline of Whitaker and Sloane's proposal. We'd be selecting another firm for our logistics partnership. You know, Nadine said, lurching for a lighter topic, this place is owned by the Cascade Group now. Spencer and I just bought some shares. Didn't we, babe? Spencer straightened slightly, almost 5%, not bad for a long-term hold. How exciting, I said with a pleasant smile, recalling the board meeting where I personally approved their share purchase via a limited entity under West Wing Aero's portfolio. Just then, the waiter returned with a deep burgundy bottle and a crystal decanter. A 2003 Clos de Tart, madame, he said with a bow, compliments of the owner. Nadine blinked. There must be a mistake. We're shareholders. We didn't authorize anything. No mistake, the waiter replied. The owner was very specific. For Ms. Whitaker's table only. Every head turned. I raised my glass, serene and steady. How generous! Spencer's phone buzzed again, likely another fire from a team scrambling in the dark. Spencer disappeared again, muttering something about a call. Nadine stared at the rare wine bottle, then at me. I don't get it, she whispered to Uncle Alan. They must think she's someone important, he replied, too quickly, trying to convince himself more than her. I didn't need to say anything. Tomorrow would make everything perfectly clear. The next morning, I sat behind the smoked glass desk of my private office, top floor of West Wing Tower, Portland's newest skyline jewel, watching the security feed. Spencer paced the sleek glass-walled conference room, brows furrowed, suit slightly wrinkled. He'd arrived early, no doubt eager to secure the Cascade Freight deal. Then Julia's voice came through my intercom. Miss Whitaker, your cousin Spencer and Uncle Alan are here, with Mr. Daniels from Whitaker and Sloane. Of course they were. If you're wondering what happened when they discovered who was really behind the deal, make sure you subscribe because what came next changed everything. Nadine never missed an opportunity to bask in Spencer's supposed brilliance, and Uncle Alan had clearly tagged along to provide his signature mix of gravitas and condescension. They all believed Spencer was the family's financial star. Perfect, I said. Send them in. I opened my laptop, fingers moving steadily, as I cued an email to auto-send in exactly 10 minutes. Subject: Pacific Freight Partnership. Dear Mr. Daniels, after thorough evaluation, West Wing Aero has chosen to pursue alternative strategies for our regional supply chain expansion. While we appreciate Whitaker and Sloane's interest, we believe our objectives are better aligned elsewhere. Best regards, Alana Whitaker, CEO, West Wing Aero. 10 years of being brushed off, mocked behind closed doors, smiled at while being dismissed. Let them wonder how they missed it all. I didn't raise my voice. I raised my company. That chapter, the one where they held all the power, closed today. On my security feed, I saw more figures file into the sleek glass conference room. Nadine fussed over Spencer's collar like a stage mom before curtain call. Uncle Alan took the head seat, practically radiating entitlement. Then Julia's voice returned over the intercom. The Cascade team has arrived. Would you like me to send them in? Please do. On screen, 3 of my top executives entered the room. Spencer sprang to his feet, hand extended. Fantastic! We've been eagerly awaiting. Wait, where's your CEO? David Chen, my COO, offered his trademark composed smile. Ms. Whitaker sends her regards. She's decided to address the matter differently. Alana Whitaker? Nadine blinked, her voice uncertain. Right on cue, Spencer's phone buzzed. I watched him read the email, watched his expression unravel in slow motion. This isn't happening, he stammered. They're rejecting us? Perhaps, David said evenly. You should ask Miss Whittaker yourself. A stunned hush fell over the room. Nadine gave a shaky laugh. Alana? What does she have to do with any of this? She wears off-the-rack dresses and drives an old Civic. David tapped his tablet. A projection appeared on the wall behind them. Alana Whittaker, founder and CEO, West Wing Aero. Owner of Cascade Freight, La Cascade Group, and over 60 global subsidiaries. Estimated net worth $8,200,000,000. And then I stepped into the room. The silence shattered like thin ice. Nadine's mouth opened, then shut. Her face had gone sheet white. Spencer dropped into his chair, deflated. Uncle Alan froze, his confidence flickering. Good morning, I said, coolly composed. I believe it's time we had a frank discussion about your behavior, Spencer. Nadine's voice cracked. But you asked to borrow money for a laptop once. What? I smiled. And you offered it. I just never said I needed it. Actually, I corrected Nadine gently, I own the dealership that services that car. The story about borrowing money? Just a bit of theater. You seem to enjoy playing the savior. Spencer finally found his voice. But Cascade Freight, the tower, the... Yes, I replied, lips curving into a calm smile. The private jet you kept boasting about? It's part of my personal fleet. You probably saw it at the terminal. Built last year by West Wing Aviation. That broke Uncle Alan's silence. So all this time, you've been building an empire? I met his stare head on. While you were busy dismissing my drone obsession, I was becoming one of the largest private aerospace investors in the country. I turned slightly, gesturing toward the floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Portland skyline. Let the city speak for itself. That restaurant group you just invested in, I control 40% of it. The tower where Whittaker and Sloan rents 3 floors, I bought it last spring. That jet company Spencer keeps pitching to, one arm of my vertical integration strategy. Nadine had begun to cry. Her mascara pooled in fine lines. Why didn't you ever tell us? Would you have listened, I asked. You decided I was the underachiever. It was easier to let you think that while I built something you couldn't comprehend. Now, Alana, Uncle Alan began, grasping for control. No, I said, firm. You don't get to rewrite history now, not after letting them humiliate me year after year. I picked up a folder from the table and slid it forward. Let's talk about Whittaker and Sloan. Spencer visibly tensed. My audit team found some interesting irregularities in your latest filings. Nadine snapped her head toward him. What filings? Oh, just the usual. Padded revenue, off-books cash flow, and $3,400,000 0 cents routed to a Cayman account. You've been investigating us, Uncle Alan blurted. Naturally. I vet every potential partner, I said coldly. David stepped forward and handed each of them a copy of the internal report. You'll find everything in the report, I said calmly, eyes on Spencer, including that Cayman transfer, Spencer. Nadine snatched her copy, her hands shaking. Spencer, what is she talking about? Her voice cracked with panic. But he didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the summary page, shoulders hunched, face pale. He knew it was all true. Here's what's going to happen, I said, stepping forward. Spencer will resign from Whittaker and Sloan, effective immediately. If he does so quietly, this report stays internal. And if he doesn't? Nadine asked, barely above a whisper. I gave a small shrug. Well, let's just say the SEC tends to take a special interest in off-ledger accounts and falsified revenue. You have no right, Uncle Alan muttered, his voice brittle. Actually, I said, pressing a button on the conference speaker, I do. Julia, initiate Operation Groundwork. Right away, Miss Whittaker, came her crisp reply. Operation what? Nadine whispered. I faced the room and said, West Wing Aero is publicly announcing its controlling interest in Whitaker and Sloan, effective immediately. A comprehensive audit and executive restructuring will commence this afternoon with top leadership. Uncle Alan sank into his chair, losing color. Are you taking over? This firm is our legacy. No, I said calmly. You could leave a legacy. You were too focused on egos and ignoring corruption. At the door, I turned. What about Nadine? So, the Clos d'Etat wine last night? It was from my cellar, worth more than your Bentley down payment. My predictions came true in the weeks that followed. Spencer quit, Nadine divorced after discovering the financial malfeasance. Uncle Alan quit, unable to face the board. To integrate Whitaker and Sloan into West Wing, I hired forensic auditors and instituted tight compliance measures. Whitaker and Sloan's shares rose virtually overnight when the market knew I was behind the buyout. 3 months later, my mother suggested meeting. A cozy East Side cafe between a used bookstore and a bike shop was the setting this time. She arrived early, holding a chipped herbal tea mug. She said, "I don't understand," after a lengthy quiet. "Why lie about difficulties when you truly are a billionaire?" I stirred my espresso to finish. Her eyes searched as she nodded. "Because I needed to see who you all really were." "When you thought I was nothing," I said, dropping her gaze. "We were cruel to you." "Yes," I said calmly, "you were. Can you ever pardon us?" I inspected her face, now softer, older. "Dear Mom, it's not about forgiveness. The issue is trust. You all showed me who you were when I was the disappointment." Leaning back, "Why should I trust you knowing I have everything?" She said nothing, just remorse and silence. A year later, I crossed the Atlantic in my Gulfstream following a London conference. West Wing's European launch started with a big UK logistics sector acquisition. Nadine remarried. She lived modestly in a Portland suburb with a weekend CPA. Spencer, selling luxury SUVs in Boise. Uncle Alan quietly sold his holiday home for legal bills. The legacy he once boasted collapsed. The phone buzzed. Message from Nadine. "Happy birthday, Alana. Though I don't deserve your time, I miss you." I looked out the window at the ocean clouds parting. Family sprang to mind, about pride. The cost of underestimating. We might develop something honest someday. Not today. Despite their laughter, I felt happy to have built something real today. Grandmother would have smiled. "Miss Whitaker," the flight attendant whispered, nodding respectfully. "Preparing to land at your private terminal." I nodded. "Thank you. To bring my Civic around front, please. Maybe I'll drive myself today." The serene confidence of knowing you never had to prove anything is sometimes more potent than luxury. Sometimes the woman they taunted for riding the bus owns the fleet, depot, and city infrastructure. Later that night, I unlocked my West Wing Tower office safe. Inside, I added Spencer's signed resignation letter. A La Cascade dinner receipt and a tattered envelope with Grandma Eloise's handwritten note were among the artifacts. "Lana, let them underestimate you. Success is sharpest in silence." And she was right. The individuals who should have known me best talked over, ignored, and wrote me off for 10 years. But I didn't let that define me. I capitalized on every rejection. Ignored, underestimated, or left out of the narrative. This is your area. Comment below, discuss your journey. How are you rising? We're rewriting our tales and redefining power together. Quiet, focused, unapologetic. Subscribe if you value creating with intention, rising quietly, and standing firm when it matters. Your input matters. Remember, the world may dismiss your beginning, but not your ending. Sometimes quiet is louder than applause.